This Equipment World video is brought to you by Chevron Delo 600 ADF Ultra Low Ash Diesel Engine Oil. It's time to kick some ash.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Equipment World. I'm your host Brian, and today we're going to do a relatively short topic, but I think it's one that applies more than ever. Don't get stuck in a rut. And I know that sounds like really simple advice, but it's so easy to forget that we shouldn't get stuck in a rut. And the reason I say this applies more than ever, well, as you guys know, we have a ton of stuff going on in the world that's causing dynamics that we've been traditionally used to change. So the first thing, and this is a common theme on this channel and on this show, is the fact that employees are no longer coming to you with open arms, ready to accept whatever position you want to give them. Instead, it's very much an employee's market, which means that these guys are shopping around. They're calling all of your competitors to see if they're hiring as well, and then they're going to see who has the best deal for them. And heaven forbid you do something to anger them, they'll go down the road. So this is causing us to have a lot of hiring issues. And then, of course, that's assuming you can find people to hire, because we're also suffering from a giant labor shortage. And then once you hire those people, we are struggling with those people really wanting to work. We're not having that traditional workforce that hits the ground running and is ready to put in 110% effort. They're ready to work 60 to 80 hours a week. Like, all of the job site dynamics are changing because of the way the labor force is these days. So that's a huge chunk of business that has changed over the last 5 to 10 years. I mean, really, it's been a gradual change, but really it's taken hold over the last 5 to 10 years that the landscape is not what it used to be when it comes to hiring people. Now, flip it over to more current day, more modern problems that we're having. I don't know about you guys, but if you dabble at all in the residential market, like Rick and myself, on the contracting side, we've had work dry up. I mean, residential work has just totally dropped off the map. We're still getting some commercial projects. We're still getting some bigger land clears. But as far as homeowner work goes, which is bread and butter for Rick and I, it's gone. It's no longer there. And so to tie this all back into our theme, we've been having to think outside the box on how we're going to react. Because if we continue to do the exact same thing that's been working really well for us for the past, 3 years or so that I've been working with Rick, we're going to sit here and spin our wheels. We're going to blow all of our marketing budget on people who don't really have the money to hire us. So what we're having to do is think outside the box. We're having to get out of our rut that has been working, and we're having to do things differently.
But before we get into that, I want to take a second to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Chevron Lubricants. Protecting your diesel engine and its exhaust aftertreatment system has traditionally been seen as an either-or proposition when it comes to choosing the engine oil that's going to protect your system. And that's exactly why Chevron spent more than a decade of R&D work developing a no-compromise formulation. Now, I don't have to tell you why a clogged DPF is bad news, but here's the real kick in the pants. 90% of that ash clogging up your DPF and then upping your fuel and maintenance costs, it comes from your engine oil. You might be thinking, why don't they make an engine oil with less ash in it then? You'll be happy to learn that Chevron agrees with you. They've developed a new ultra low ash diesel engine oil that is specifically designed to combat DPF ash clogging. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology cuts sulfate ash by 60%, radically reducing the rate of DPF clogging and extending the DPF service life by 2.5 times. Before, you had to choose between protecting your engine or your aftertreatment system. Now you don't. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology. It's time to kick some ash.
Now, Facebook marketing for us, for our business, has been really successful with homeowners, and that's how we've landed a lot of our projects. But right now, we're throwing money away at Facebook to the point that Rick and I have made the mutual decision it's not worth throwing any more money at. Instead of continuing through the season throwing money at marketing channels that aren't working, we've decided we're going to totally shift gears. And that's what I want to encourage you to do with your business. And whether it is marketing for new business or if it is marketing for employees, we have to collectively recognize that the landscape is changing and you can't go on business as usual. This is something that's actually a common theme on another podcast I host that's geared towards the dealership industry. The way dealerships interact with their customers has been changing over the last decade or so. And so if you go into a situation with the mentality that we're going to do it this way because it's always worked and that's why we're going to continue to do it that way, you will ultimately fail. Your business will ultimately start to decline. Because let's face it, life is not this static thing. There are so many dynamics that come into play that you're going to have to change some things up. Now, how do you go about doing that? Well, this is where I have some advice that will be interesting for you, maybe really fulfilling and rewarding, and might find you some gems in your company. I would encourage you to sit down and start a brainstorming session, but not just with your upper management team. I would encourage you to sit down with some mid and low level employees as well and say, look, guys, here's the problem that we're having, whether it's the hiring issue or thinking of new creative marketing techniques. I would sit down, tell your team, this is our problem, and we're looking for new solutions. And then turn the floor over to your employees. Have people start pitching out ideas. And the most important thing here is you can't discount dumb ideas. You have to recognize that there are no dumb ideas because people are going to be very timid to come out with their ideas. It always works that way. Whenever upper management comes and says, hey, we want your ideas, the first thing everyone wants to do is clam up and not share, because why would I put myself out there to look like an idiot in front of upper management? That's where you as an upper management team have to get the ball rolling. Throw out some crazy ideas. Throw out something that's astronomically ridiculous. And then everyone has a good laugh about it, and everyone starts to feel a little more comfortable that they can share their ideas and they're not going to be judged for it. And then you're going to be surprised at how much the ideas start rolling, and you can come away with some real gems from meetings like these. So that's kind of the biggest piece of advice I can give you on this particular episode is don't get stuck in a rut. It's so easy to do, especially if you're a larger company that's got a very good history of things traditionally working well. We just have to recognize that the dynamic and the landscape is changing in a lot of very big ways that are having a tremendous impact on our businesses. And so, yes, for the last 30 years, that may have worked great. It doesn't mean it's going to work for the next 30 years, let alone the next 5 years. So you may have to do things differently. It's important to recognize that, it's important to adapt, and it's important to go forward with a new plan. So I hope this has been helpful as always. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week on The Dirt.